Happy New Year! This is Talking to the Void. I'm Steven Santana with Illustrious Magic. We're going to be looking back at 2015, and then I'm going to do a separate video looking forward to 2016 because, hey, it's a new year and that's what people do. So, let's get started. So first thing is I'm going to go try and be quick, go through all the games I played in 2015. So starting off, Grim Fandango. Great game, great aesthetic to it. The whole feeling of the Day of the Dead was really, really charming, but man, that game is very obtuse. I talked a bit with Jake Rodkin of Campo Santo. They're making Firewatch for the PlayStation 4 about it, and he also agreed that, yeah, Grim Fandango has a lot of puzzles in it that are just very strange and obtuse and very much something that you need a strategy guide for, which helped me, but I just could not finish that game despite loving the dialogue and the setting and the characters. But anyway, moving on to Apotheon, which is a game everyone forgot came out for PlayStation 4 last year. The game is basically set in Greek times. It's basically a Metroidvania game, action-adventure. You get items to progress further along, and you collect really strange weapons that you can fling these things basically across the map. And it also has very funny ragdoll physics when you kill people as well that also send them tumbling across the map. It's a charming little game. It crashed for me several times, so technically challenging. I don't know if they ever fixed that. I haven't gone back to it for quite some time, but there is a very strange glitch where if you had a full inventory list for, say, stones in your sling, and then you tried to get more from a chest, and then exited out of the menu chest thing, the game would basically stop, and then you would have to quit and restart it. So that was kind of bad. Also bad, The Order 1886. That was not a good game. Everyone has forgotten about it. Me and my friend Brendan often joke about it because it is kind of a joke. I'm sorry, Ready at Dawn, but that game was just not that great. The story was kind of dumb, the gameplay was fine, and it kept getting interrupted by either a cutscene or a QuickTime event, and none of it worked out very well. It just was not that good. It was good looking, I guess, if very, very dank, dark, gray London is your type of thing, but it is definitely not. Hotline Miami 2, to contrast this, is very colorful and also kind of disappointing. The game was very, very hard, but not in the way that Hotline Miami was tough and you could use your skills to get over it. Basically, this had a wall of gameplay that was just too much for me to handle. I beat the game, but there was just such strange decisions made where enemies off-screen would kill you and be the cause of your death, and then you would restart immediately in the same area where an enemy would see you and then shoot you and kill you. It just it just felt like that sequel didn't work out the way that they intended. So I mean, I guess whatever. Final Fantasy Type 0 was the next game I played. I really only bought this to try out the demo for Final Fantasy 15, episode Duske or Duska or whatever. It was whatever. Final Fantasy Type 0, also whatever. Man, the motion blur in that game is just horrendous. It is just not that great, and it's very obviously a PSP game that should have been ported to the PS Vita and not the PlayStation 4. Bloodborne, however, made up for it. That is a really good game, got me into the Souls gameplay type of thing, mostly because it's much more aggressive than the Souls games were. The Souls games were very much about defense and having your shield up all the time, managing your stamina. However, Bloodborne is very much more about always attacking, always on the offensive, and dodging when you can. State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition is what got me to buy an Xbox One. That and the GameStop discount deal that they were offering where I could turn in my 360 to get a bunch of money off of an Xbox One. So hey, I got it. I also got Halo the Master Chief Collection, but that didn't come out this year, so we're not going to talk about it. State of Decay, though, Year 1 Survival Edition, that's a very long name, kind of unnecessary, but that's a really good game. It's basically another zombie game, kind of reminds me a bit of like, what was the DayZ, the mod for Arma 3, or Arma 2, sorry. It's a better version of that, still kind of janky, still doesn't, it's not going to have like AAA animations or anything, but I really enjoyed it with the time that I spent. And it came out at a good time too. It was May, like right before E3 and all of that crazy stuff happened, so it was a good game to kind of begin my time with the Xbox One this year. Wolfenstein the Old Blood also came out, and this was a strange game. It was pretty quick to get through it, and it very obviously was supposed to be split between two separate DLC packs, but ended up only being one. So besides that weird design decision, it was more of Wolfenstein, which was a really good game last year. It was kind of short, the story was fine, it didn't really go anywhere new. The second half of it tried to do the Nazi zombie shtick, which was perfected in Call of Duty World at War, so there's not much you can say about that. Then we had The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and this game pretty much took the entire internet and gaming sites and everyone by storm because it is really good. And it's hard to really pin down one thing that makes it great. A lot of people call to the the Bloody Baron quest line, which it didn't impress me all that much, and I just think that the game itself basically puts you into this medieval Polish metal album cover art world of dragons, and it's not high fantasy, it's more like dark fantasy. It is a little bit kind of Game of Thrones, even though I have not really watched that series that much. It has a lot of like the characters feel vulnerable. In Dragon Age Inquisition, the characters don't feel vulnerable at all. But in The Witcher 3, because it's so much more down to earth and I'm not going to say realistic, but it's very much more grounded in the sense that I feel like a character could die at any second, whereas in other games, I know that this character is going to be fine and they could fall off a cliff from like 50 stories up and they would be fine. But in The Witcher, very different story. So that's, I guess, one of the main things that I reason is why it's so much better and different from a lot of the other open world games that came out this year, but to each their own. Then we had Heroes of the Storm, which was basically the game that got me into MOBAs. It's very much baby's first MOBA, I acknowledge that for sure, but I still really enjoyed my time with it. It was another game, it was a summer game basically. It came out early June, I want to say. It came out it was in beta for like forever, and then it was an open beta, I think, for a while, and now it was finally officially launched. And I really like it. It's a really good strategy game. They've been updating it consistently since its open release as an actual product, and I'm really happy with my time that I spent with it. And it kind of shows me why people can super get into these MOBA genres like Dota 2 and League of Legends, even though I don't think any other game that is a MOBA will catch up and be as popular as those two. And I'm definitely not going to get into those two, but I now have a better understanding of why people do. So I guess that's a good thing for Heroes of the Storm to do. It's a very good introductory chapter to the Dota and League of Legends formula that has basically taken the entire gaming community by storm. Then I played Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, which is basically just Devil May Cry 4 from the early PS3 and Xbox 360 generation, ported now to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I played it on Xbox One. It's good. I mean, I've never been a super big fan of the action genre, or, it's just an action hack and slash game. There's a lot of, deep combos that you can get into it, but you can pretty much survive doing anything. And they did add a lot of, like, neat little cool stuff, but I wrote an entire review on this game, so you can read that on DualShockers if you really want to see me go into depth with that. It's fine. It's good. I don't know if Devil May Cry 4 necessarily needed another remake, but I guess, the prototype 1 and 2 got one as well, so, well, they didn't actually get remakes, they just were remastered for the new consoles, because, hey, money. Next up was Rocket League, and now this game was very surprising. I never got into it as much as my friends and pretty much everyone else did. This is another game that was like The Witcher 3, where it kind of took everyone by storm, but the major difference here is that nobody expected anything of Rocket League. This game came out of nowhere, was a PlayStation Plus free game for July, and then also came out on PC on Steam at the same time, and it's now going to be coming to Xbox One. And this game just is crazy popular with people, and it's a very simple game too. You basically are cars, and you have to get a soccer ball, which is it's kind of cartoony too, but it's fine. Where you basically hit a soccer ball into goals with its cars, and it is very satisfying. I have played a few rounds of it. I have it on my PS4, but I just haven't bothered with it because I'm not really into sports or competitive multiplayer that much anymore. But this game is very, very good, and I can see why it's popular with people, and I do think it deserves Game of the Year awards from certain outlets. I know GameSpot gave The Witcher 3 Game of the Year to... I know GameSpot gave The Witcher 3 Game of the Year, but its runner-up was Rocket League, and I can understand where they're coming from when they say that. Next up was Megaman the Legacy Collection, which was a really good, kind of like, I remember it reminded me of on the PlayStation 1, there was a game that I had called Namco Bandai Arcade, and it was basically you were put in this museum as a player character, and you could go into these different, like, kind of like museum rooms that were all centered around a specific game, and then you could play that game. And they were basically rendered perfectly, as far as I could tell, as they would be on the arcade or whatever console that they originally appeared on. And so Mega Man Legacy Collection is basically taking Mega Man 1 through 6 on the NES, putting it into this museum status preservation piece, and then giving that to people who want it. And it's pretty perfect. It has like all these little cool side things where it's like you can play all the songs from the Mega Man games, you can look at the art, read little character things and stuff, and you can also do like boss rushes, and I think they're going to be updating it soon because it's coming to Vita as well. And I think it's already on 3DS. I'm actually not entirely sure. I should look it up, but I'm busy doing this. So they're going to be updating it with new challenges, which is basically people have been given, they can give Capcom, I know Colin was talking about this a little bit, I'm trying to remember my best, but you can take sections of the Mega Man games and then cut them and put them into other Mega Man games that are like out of sequence. So basically you can be in Dr. Wily's castle in Mega Man 3, and then all of a sudden go to the first Electroman stage in another Mega Man game, or like, you know, stuff like that. So basically you can cut and paste it and make your own little challenge things, and so they're going to be updating it soon, hopefully with those, which is pretty cool. And that game just is itself as a piece of art being preserved for future generations is great, and I really appreciate that. Until Dawn is another game that was very surprising, not as much as Rocket League because it did have some faults, but Until Dawn is a really, really good game, and it is a great party game. It is a great game to play with other people where you can pass the controller around, yell at the TV screen, and yell at each other when a character dies that you wanted to live. It's also good for assigning people characters so that every time they appear, you take over and will play as them and want them to die or want them to live. It's a really, really good party game, and nobody really expected anything out of the game, especially because it began as a PlayStation Move game, and we all know how the PlayStation Move panned out. A game that I picked up at the same time as Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, which I'll talk about, is Mad Max, which I played about all of an hour of before leaving it, and basically never got looking back. People have been disappointed at the game. I don't think, at least as far as the hour that I played and then the reviews and other videos that I've watched of it, it didn't look like it was necessarily bad. It just looked mediocre, which is funny because that's what Mad Max Fury Road is. One of the major lines in that film is mediocre. Yeah, I picked it up at the same time as Metal Gear Solid 5 for whatever reason. I had a strange obsession with wanting to play this game, but knowing that I never was. So I left it in shrink wrap, and I think it was about 31 days after I picked it up that I actually finally unwrapped it from the shrink wrap, put it into my console, and played it for an hour before never going back. So, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. During December, this was the game that I played exclusively. Pretty much all of September, not December. All of September was playing Metal Gear Solid 5, whether it was streaming it or just playing it in my room because it's Metal Gear. I was very disappointed by the game, especially the latter half, looking into it and finding out that there was supposed to be more to it that got cut, and it was pretty far along too, but when it got cut. That game just ends and it lacks resolution, which is something that I've been finding annoys me more and more and more as I consume more media, is things that end but don't have a clear conclusion. It's becoming one of my biggest pet peeves, along with killing a character in the first 5 minutes and expecting me to care, or just anybody to care, really. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid 5, it's really good. It lacks a story at all. Quiet's character, the whole like justification for her is really stupid and really dumb. But Snake, the twist they pull with Snake, I won't like reveal or spoil it, but it was really cool, even though I did hear about it previously because I had pretty much finished the game, and so I had started listening to spoiler casts to see what other people thought, and so I spoiled myself on the final reveal, which is really cool, and it makes sense. It was kind of something that a lot of theories were floating about before the game came out, and it does make sense for that world. And I really enjoyed Metal Gear. I played about 70 hours, but I got caught at a dead end where one of the side ops turns into a main mission, and that main mission you can't quit out of. You have to finish that mission in order to either go back to Mother Base or to do anything else. And because the side op, I had prepared myself to go into it doing a stealth thing, and the main mission turns out to be an action-packed game, I am pretty much screwed. I just can't beat that game. I've tried multiple times to get through it and to call down airdrops, because you can change your weapons by calling airdrops in. You just have to wait for them. But yeah, I've tried it multiple times and I'm done. I'm not gonna even try to go back to it. So uh, ending on that note was left a very sour taste in my mouth when I think of Metal Gear Solid 5. Then we have Afro Samurai 2 Revenge of Kuma Volume 1. Now this game apparently was so bad that the publisher pulled it from store sales and has been giving refunds to people who purchased it on Steam and PlayStation 4. I reviewed it for DualShockers, and while I wanted to give it a lower score, we couldn't because it wasn't technically... Um, it just, the technical performance wasn't hampering my experience, so I wasn't able to give it a lower score, even though I thought it was essentially a bad game. Um, Other people, though, have talked up about just how bad it performs for them. Just basically... excuse me. Other people have talked about how bad it performs for them. Basically, just the frame rate is terrible, the audio is out of sync, the video graphics just don't render, things just don't work. And so it's kind of sad because I can see what they were going for, as you know, it being a sequel to the original Afro Samurai, which wasn't that great, but it was fine as a licensed game. Before, you know, recently licensed games have been getting better and better, and so to see this kind of just fail so terribly was kind of sad for me, just because I knew the people who, not I didn't know the people who made it like personally, but I knew what their intention was behind making this game, and because it was supposed to be this trilogy with, you know, more volumes, and for them to basically just shutter that, it kind of is like, oh, well, that sucks. And I wish I still had it downloaded on my PS4 just so I could have it, because it is now going to be probably one of the most rare games to have, because it was, one, a bad game, so nobody really paid attention to it anyway, and two, they pulled it so you can't re-download it, because I own it technically, but I can't re-download it because they pulled it from the store. So it's basically impossible for me to get it unless I get a torrent of the PC version, which I'm probably not going to go that hard to find, but it's just kind of like a weird thing for me because I'm very much into the preservation of video games as an art form. So to have this game basically unavailable is kind of like, I wish I still had it. I wish I hadn't deleted it because I just want to have it as like a little thing of history there. Then we have Undertale, which basically came out and surprised everyone. There was a game made by one person, kind of like Axiom Verge, which I didn't play, I'm sorry. And it is very subversive when it comes to the systems and the story. The way the narrative works into the way you fight and talk, because you can kill monsters. Because the basic premise of Undertale is you are a human who fell down into this monster world, which was separated from the human world early in the past due to some war or something. So monsters exist, and you can kill them, or you can talk to them and mercy them. So basically, you can spare them. So there's a genocidal route, a neutral route, and then a forget what the third route is, but it's basically the route where you don't kill anyone. You know, it's the good one, the one that you want. So just the characters that it introduces, there's Papyrus, which everyone loves, and he deservedly so. He's a great character. You can go on a date with him. He's basically a skeleton man who is obsessed with finding a human and capturing it and bringing it to the, you know, monster leader or whatever. It's a great game. The ending is so smart if you take the neutral route. It is just the way it incorporates game mechanics that everyone knows about and, you know, everyone is familiar with, and basically like toys with it and toys with the player. It's a really good game, and I think more people should be playing it and talking about it, because it was such a small game that people kind of, you know, glanced over it because, hey, it's another indie game. Indie games, you know, are a dime a dozen nowadays, but this game is just so good. So play Undertale. Then we had Disgaea 5 Alliance of Vengeance. I didn't play a lot of this game. I played like the first 2 hours, I want to say, and it's a good game. It's another Disgaea game. I mean, really, that's all there is to say about it. It's another Disgaea game. Then we have Onigiri. Now, this was a free-to-play MMO that came out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I'm not sure if it's on PC, but yeah, this game is really weird. I basically played it because I saw that it was a free game. I basically played it because I saw that it was a free game and was like, oh well, I have nothing to do right now at the beginning of October. Why don't I try this game out? Man, that game is trash. It's a anime-inspired MMO with lots of, you know, girls with, you know, strange outfits that, of course, you know, supposed to be tantalizing or whatever. It's dumb. And then I was playing with my friends who were around me, and so what I would do is the dodge mechanic in this game makes the character like grunt, but because it's a woman character and she's grunting, it sounds vaguely sexual. And so whenever I would dodge, she would do that audio cue. And so I just kept doing it over and over, and as I was doing it, I was just staring at my friend and just dodging and having that audio cue play, and he was so disturbed by it. It was really funny. That game also runs really terribly when there's more than 10 people on screen, which as an MMO it probably shouldn't be doing that. And it's just basically your run-of-the-mill trash MMO, which is go here, kill 10 things, bring me back an item, and I will give you experience and another item or something. And it's just like, all right, well, that's cool, but yeah, it's just not good. Then we have Transformers Devastation, and like I said earlier, licensed games have been getting better and better, and Transformers Devastation is definitely a great game. It's another Platinum game, so it has the, if you don't know Platinum, they're basically the people who made Bayonetta and have perfected the action hack and slash formula that was started majorly in a way by Devil May Cry. So Transformers Devastation basically takes Transformers, gives them both melee and ranged capabilities, but mostly focus on melee, and incorporates that Platinum gameplay into it, and it is really good. It looks just like the first generation Transformers television series did, and the way it plays is basically a lot like Bayonetta, where when you dodge, you can activate Witch Time, which, in Transformers it's not Witch Time, it's just slow mode time, or you can, pummel the enemies more, and it is just a really, really good action game, and it really has a great but terrible Transformers storyline, which was kind of expected because Transformers itself is really dumb. Kind of like G.I. Joe was, the television series. Transformers television series was really dumb, so to have this game pretty much match up to that in terms of storytelling, it was nice. And the gameplay is just, it's so good. I can't say enough good things about it. Then we had Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection, which keeps reminding me of Master Chief, Halo, the Master Chief collection, for whatever weird reason. But yeah, not Halo, sorry, Nathan Drake. It's basically Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 redone. I talk enough about Uncharted 2 in my spare time and in any chance I get, so I won't talk about it that much here. But yeah, Uncharted 2 is still really, 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 really good. There's no reason you shouldn't play Uncharted 2, truly. Uncharted 3 is disappointing. Uncharted 1 is a good amateur first effort, but Uncharted 2 is definitely just right. It's basically the Empire Strikes Back of games. Then we had Corpse Party Blood Drive, which was a Vita game. I still haven't finished. I'm supposed to review it, but it's just another, weird Japanese novel, visual novel almost. There's not a lot of gameplay in it. It's very much more a narrative that uses a game to display itself instead of like a anime series or movie. I guess maybe they didn't have the budget for that, but video games themselves are expensive anyway, so it's strange that they would choose that to tell their story. But it's fine. It's another weird horror story with a lot of occult elements and stuff like that, with there being another world, and there's a lot of violent, bloody stuff that goes on in the game too, which makes it weird for me because I'm not really into that type of stuff or horror in general. So for me to play that game and appreciate it was, pretty telling that it's good. It's not exactly necessarily great, but it is a Vita game, and there aren't many of those, so I guess that kind of sets it apart as well. Then we had Wasteland 2 Director's Cut for the PlayStation 4. That was a really good game. It's basically kind of like Fallout 1 and 2 were, and Wasteland before it. It's a sequel to those games, where it is very much a CRPG, isometric. You have these very defined characters who you should only increase their skills in 3 slots, because if you try to do more than that, you're not going to have an effective character. And so it's very much a hardcore RPG. You have to spend lots and lots of time with it in order to get everything out of it. And I didn't spend hundreds of hours in it, but I could see and appreciate all of that and all that it withheld within it. And it has actually a very lengthy story too, which goes in some interesting places, kind of rehashes Wasteland 1 a bit, and it has a lot of callbacks to that game, which is great for people who played it. I didn't, so I didn't really appreciate it that much, but it's still a really good CRPG for those who still want that sort of thing, especially who want that sort of thing on a television, and instead of having to kind of like integrate it into their PC on a TV. It's kind of like one of those things that it's one of the reasons why the Steam Link and the Steam controller and that type of stuff was created, was so that people could enjoy this type of game, which requires usually a PC and mouse, a keyboard and mouse, but instead you can play with a controller. I did have some weird technical issues with it, but other than that, it didn't really mar the experience that much. Then we had Yoshi's Woolly World, and wow, this game is just so beautiful. It's a very easy platformer. It's not that tough. It's not like the ending of Super Mario 3D World where it goes crazy and stuff, but it's so damn good looking. Like, that game is so cute and beautiful, especially in HD, because we had Kirby's Epic Yarn, and now we have Yoshi's Woolly World, which is basically taking that art style and perfecting it in a much larger resolution image display. And it pays off so well, and that aesthetic is taken and implemented into every single thing that pops up on the screen. So everything in the world is made out of some form of crafting material, which is really cool. And I was kind of annoyed when Giant Bomb, I was been listening to their Game of the Year content, and just listening to them kind of be like, well, it was basically Kirby's Epic Yarn done again. I was like, no, it was more than that. So I feel for Dan Reichert when he was trying to argue for it, but it's a really good platformer, and it's a really good-looking platformer as well. Then we had Tales of Zestiria, and I'd never really played the Tales series. I had a friend of mine who is like super in love with them and loves all of them, and so to finally play Tales of Zestiria is an interesting way to be introduced to the series, because it does very much come across as another one of those games, but those games are actually really good, it seems, because the characters, I didn't expect anything of them, but the frequent conversations they have with each other and the amount of like laughing and chuckling that I've actually done because of the interactions that they have really took me off guard. And the gameplay itself is fine. It's kind of a linear, go from one area to the next, and the areas are large, and you can spend your time grinding and fighting enemies, and they have like gameplay systems that reward you for the grinding and stuff, and there's like reasons for doing it, but it's not necessary. You can play a majority of that game without having to worry about leveling up and stuff like that. And it's kind of like a go to A, go to B, talk to people, go to A, go to B, talk to people, and you kind of just progress along that way. But it's definitely the characters when they, are around each other and are talking and, having funny conversations and making fun of each other, or, worrying about each other and stuff like that, and revealing things about their past. It's really, that's what makes it worthwhile, and I really enjoyed it. And then we have Halo 5 Guardians, which I don't play competitive multiplayer shooters anymore ever since Modern Warfare 2, but this game makes me want to just play Arena over and over and over again. Warzone was a nice experiment. I don't like it that much anymore. I originally was like, oh, this is really cool. It's kind of like they took Invasion from Halo Reach, which was one of my favorite modes, and kind of just, expanded upon it logically. However, the implementation of the card system is just not that great. It's very weird that you are rewarded with these one limited use cards that you then can also purchase with real money, even though they are only used once. It's weird. I don't like it that much, but man, Arena is really, really fun. I really like that game, the multiplayer. It's the best, I think, that I've had with Halo Reach or not Halo Reach, with just Halo multiplayer in general. I really liked Reach. I never played enough of 2 that much, but I did play a lot of 3, a lot of Reach, and enough of 4 to appreciate it, but 5 is definitely up there as far as like the best multiplayer that I've had with a game. Then we have Fallout 4, which is pretty much the biggest monster game of this year, or, well, this past year of 2015. That game was a monolith. Rise of the Tomb Raider did not stand a chance against that game, very sadly. They should have put it out 2 weeks later, but whatever. But yeah, Fallout 4 is basically Fallout 3, except with more stuff to do, and still kind of has the jankiness of Fallout 3, but I went back and played Fallout 3 again, and yeah, no, that game is really, really rough. And so to go from Fallout 3 directly into Fallout 4, it makes you appreciate the improvements they did to Fallout 4. And some people have had technical performance issues with it on the consoles specifically. I've been playing it for about 20 hours, 25 hours on the PS4, and I've not run into any of those, so it's kind of a case-by-case basis, but I do understand if people have run into challenges with performance, but yeah, that game is really good. I want to spend more time with it, but I don't think I ever will have the time to, just because there's so much happening, and with 2016 also going to be another great year for video games, I just don't know if I'll ever find the time. Maybe in the summer when there's months that are kind of like the off time where there's nothing really coming out. But then again, Persona 5 is supposed to come out in June or sometime in summer, so that's going to be what I'm going to play definitely over Fallout 4. So it's still really good. It's one of those games where it's something that you can easily recommend to somebody as being the only game that they need, because it is basically a game that you can play forever. So it's that sort of game. But since I have to play lots of games to talk about them, as I did in all of 2015, it kind of sucks because I'm not going to be able to spend as much time with it as I would want to. Speaking of Rise of the Tomb Raider, that game is actually really good. I got it for Christmas because I wasn't going to spend my own money on it for whatever logical reason. And that game is really pretty. The way it improves upon the original Tomb Raider is very satisfying because people they listen to the criticism. They basically listen to, hey, the whole open world-ish sort of thing with the Metroidvania where you can find these collectibles and basically 100% small sections of a greater linked world. They decided that, hey, everyone liked that, so let's expand upon it. Also, hey, people complained that the tombs are really cool, but we didn't do enough of them, so let's do more of it. Also, hey, people didn't like the supernatural elements, so let's do more Oh, wait, that's actually not that great. But whatever, the supernatural elements, they're in Uncharted, and they're fine. Uncharted 2 was really dumb. I know the purple monster people are really dumb in Uncharted 2, but I still love that game. So I can still appreciate Tomb Raider, even though it kind of ends with the same, like, oh, the MacGuffin, we need it because supernatural effects that are never explained, even though the rest of this game is supposedly grounded in, realism. I don't know, whatever. So the last game I played in 2015 was Sibel, which was a small game developed by Nina Freeman of the Gone Home team. They're now working on Tacoma. I forget, Fulbright is the name of the company. And so it's kind of like, it's a super, like, I guess some people have described it as voyeuristic because the main setup of the game is you are on a desktop monitor that is hers, and you take her, you basically are her, but you never actively do things as her. You're more viewing her life. It's a weird game, but it's really good. Because on the desktop you can look at like the pictures and the text logs that she has, and then you can play a game. And as you're clicking in this pseudo MMO where the pathfinding wasn't that great, is you can like look at the text logs of her conversations with other people, and while you're not filling out the replies that when you hit reply to a message, like an AIM message, you're not filling it out. You're kind of just seeing what she's saying, and just like the weird like threads that it pushes through, and you kind of have to remember who is who, because they have their actual names and then their usernames, so you kind of have to keep track of that. And it's a short game too. It was only like 90 minutes at most, and it tells a story about love, especially online love, which it kind of reminded me of little bits of my past with people, also just relationships and online relationships as well, that sort of thing. So to have it remind me of my own history, and also kind of just be a great piece that can evoke that, I really liked it. And I like the desktop simulation type thing. I don't think it's done enough. I don't want it to be done too much, but I still think there should be a little bit more of it, because I really like the whole like, oh hey, I'm playing a PC game, but I'm also basically a PC. It's one of those weird like meta things, and I really like it though. So that was games in 2015. Movies, I didn't watch that many, sadly, but I also don't think there were that many great movies in 2015 anyway. I still need to watch a few more, but yeah, there was no 2014, that's for sure. There was no Birdman, and there was no Grand Budapest Hotel. That kind of like sweeped everything else. But what I did watch was Black Hat, which was not that good at all. Mr. Holmes, which was disappointing, but it was fine, I guess. Avengers Age of Ultron, which was disappointing. It was like a fun action movie, but it was still kind of like, all right, I've gotten enough of this where I kind of want them to do something different. And despite me saying that, I'm still really excited for Captain America: Civil War, which is going to be the same thing overall. I can guarantee you. Then I saw Mad Max Fury Road, which was really good. That is one of the best movies of this year, if not the best. It just brings Mad Max back, except makes it much easier to watch. I tried to go back and watch Road Warrior. Yeah, it's really rough. It's really rough trying to go back and watch that after seeing Fury Road, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Tom Hardy come back and do more as Max, basically, and whatever crazy adventure they decide to go on next. I really like Furiosa. I don't know necessarily if like she needs her own movie. Well, I mean, it would be cool, but I know that they're never going to do it because it's about Max and it's about the characters he will find and stumble upon, basically. So Furiosa is great, and to keep her great, let's not exploit the character. Is the view I have on that. And then Jurassic World was really, really dumb. I laughed in the theater at that ending because it is just so dumb but so good. It's a strange mix. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is better than it should be. I didn't expect much going into it, especially not having seen the last one, which I heard great things about. This one was actually really good and really smart, and the way it handled the female protagonist was also really well done, I felt. Then we had Black Mass, which was Johnny Depp finally doing something other than his Johnny Depp impression, because basically he's only been known for Pirates of the Caribbean for the last how many years now. And so to see him finally do like a really good drama piece about like this gangster in South Boston was like really good because you could barely recognize it as him. They had like these contacts in him that like changed his eyes, and he was basically bald the entire time, and he's a villain, and he's actually really threatening and really creepy. I just thought that it was great to see Johnny Depp finally do acting instead of being a character. And then Steve Jobs was another movie that I saw that was like, it was fine. I was kind of disappointed by it. I like Michael Fassbender, he's my boy, and to see him do Steve Jobs was like good, but it still was like, all right, this is basically just us seeing three conversations with Steve Jobs that kind of hit the same beats and whatever. I don't know. It was fine. The Martian was really good. I didn't read the book. I'm not going to read the book. But I really liked the movie. I like Matt Damon. This is the third time we've had to save him. We saved him in Saving Private Ryan. We saved him in Interstellar, even though he went crazy. And then we also now saved him on Mars. And the cast of that movie is weird when you think about it because it has a lot of elements from other movies. There's the girl who is Mrs. Fantastic and Fantastic Four. There's Sebastian Shaw, who is the Winter Soldier. It has the dude from Ant-Man. It has the girl from Interstellar, and then it has Matt Damon, who's also in Interstellar, and also he's Matt Damon, so it's kind of hard to see him as anything other than Matt Damon. But he is very much Matt Damon in this picture too, which helped. Then you have the dude from Dumb and Dumber, and also the guy whose name I forget, but everyone wants him to be Miles Morales in the next Spider-Man, if they ever make a Spider-Man film, that is Miles Morales. So it was kind of like, it was just a funny cast, but it was a really good movie. Then we have Spectre, which was super disappointing, enough so that I wrote 6,400 words on why it fails as a James Bond film, so I won't get into that, but that movie was severely disappointing this year, especially coming from Skyfall, which was so good. Then we have The Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 2. Not enough Natalie Dormer. Really like Natalie Dormer, but she was not used enough, and that movie just kind of ends. It's not like there was one time, yeah, there was like one section where I was like, it was tense, it was dramatic, it was cool. Then after that, it just kind of is like, it's like whatever. I don't know. It's another Hunger Games movie. What do you want? And then finally, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, which is pretty much the biggest movie that everyone was looking forward to this year, and it was really good. I do have some critiques of it that I've written about on my Tumblr, but it's a good movie. It takes a little too much from previous films, which I guess is fine if you really want to use the excuse that, oh, they had to bring back the fans. It's like, the fans were going to watch this movie and love it no matter what. it's really hard to make a bad Star Wars film, especially when it's J.J. Abrams who already made 2 Star Wars films with the Star Trek movies. So it was like, okay, fine. As long as the next movie does its own thing and stops having references and taking plot points and plot beats from the older movies, then I'll be like, all right, cool. I'm ready to be in love with Star Wars again. Right now, it's like, all right, that was cool. I watched it 3 times, and the third time I actively closed my eyes and fell asleep because I was really tired. Because there was points in that movie where it's low, and it kind of is like, all right, let's move on to the next thing. I do like some of the memes that have come out of it, especially the traitor meme, which is the stormtrooper has like a stun baton for some reason, and he like tosses it aside and yells out "traitor" at Finn, and then engages him in like a lightsaber stun baton duel. It's funny how the internet has like gathered around that one thing of this movie and exploited it into this meme. It's funny. So, but yeah, that was 2015 in games and film for me. 2015 was a really pretty cool year. I started at DualShockers. I got to go to E3. PSX was a lot of fun. There was a lot of events that I got to go to in San Francisco and other places. And I got a full-time job, which lets me do other things that I wasn't able to do before. Still haven't gotten a Wii U, which is a little bit depressing, but whatever. I'll be fine. I'll hopefully get one this year. But yeah, 2015 was really good. I really enjoyed it. There was some bad things that happened, sure, in the greater sense of the world, and bad things will still continue to be in 2016. But I am still looking forward to everything that's going to be happening in 2016, and looking forward to all of the stuff that I do and other people do, and hopefully we can all just enjoy more games and more movies and more other things too in 2016. So until then, it's been fun talking for an extended period of time about 2015. It went a lot longer than I thought it would. But thank you for watching, and if you want to see all the other dumb stuff I do, it's with my friends as well. It's Illustrious Magic, as always. Take care, and have a happy new year.